and they're supporting him as well.
Awesome. So for Tyler and for Jason, same kind of background. Would love for your thoughts on these in your kind of respective camps. A lot of times when a company is founded, especially kind of the MVP and like the testing of whether there's a there or not, and you're just like, you're messing around, right? You're messing around with maybe yourself or there's some friends, like you're trying to figure out whether there's a company there to be had and to be built. That happens before the actual incorporation of a company, right? So like we're just kind of playing around with an idea to see if we should take this path forward. From a kind of a fiscal financial reporting perspective, Tyler, what responsibilities does a company have the second they incorporate, right? So once you say, okay, we're doing this, what sort of reporting should a company be thinking of and doing from the very beginning so that whenever they do go raise money or something happens, they're not backlogged on their returns or whatever it might be?
Sure. Well, obviously you have some tax. It's not me. Obviously can everyone hear me? Obviously, you have some tax reporting requirements that as soon as you form your company, you've got to file tax returns, and you should have a CPA helping you with that. But more than that, when you're in that early stage, still just trying to figure things out, basic things, set up a bank account, right? A lot of times people will, at the very beginning, will just start, running expenses through their personal account, commingling that. You should separate, establish a company right up front. Another thing that happens, even in the early stage, if you're going to go out and start seeking investment, whether it's from friends and family, whether you start talking to angel groups, they're going to ask for your financials. And most people, financials and accounting is the last thing they're thinking of. They're focused on product, right? Focused on product, finding customers. And the minute the investor asks and you don't have that in place, you can lose investment that way. And I've seen it happen. I've seen just in the last, 6 months, I've had 3 or 4 investors come to me with this exact problem. They've said, hey, I went out for investment. They've asked me for financial statements. All I have is bank statements, right? Or I had an old company that I've been, really running all my expenses through that because I wasn't sure if this was going to work. And so now I've got to set up a new company and transfer all that information over. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's important, even at the beginning, to at least set up the basic structure. Have a bank statement, use QuickBooks or Xero or some basic accounting system, and that's it. In a way, when you go to talk to your investors, at least you've demonstrated that you take the finance piece serious and you're going to take their money serious, when they give it to you.
Jason, same kind of tee up, but how should founders be thinking of it from an intellectual property perspective, right? From trademarks, from whether there's a patent or no patent, like how do you divide and how should they think about dividing intellectual property and ownership of that property?
Yeah, so there's some tough decisions for startups because you don't necessarily have the cash, but it's just so much cheaper to do things right in the beginning. So before the intellectual property, just getting to that your other point is you should at least get incorporated. That limits your liability. You can't open a bank account if you're not incorporated. So you need to incorporate. You need to open your bank account and then start filing tax returns, as Tyler mentioned. So there's some very minimum things that you need to do. And then on the IP side, there's also some very basic things you can do that will make you what we call fundable. Investors will not fund unless you've done some very basic things. And they want to see transparency on 2 things. The cap table, which goes along with incorporating and documenting who owns the shares and that type of thing. And then ownership of the IP. So there's something called a confidential information and inventions assignment agreement. And they have very standard ones. You could find it even on Cooley and Go. They're online. It's good to have a lawyer look at them, but if not, you could at least just find one online. You want to have every employee and consultant, anyone who's developing your tech, your software, everybody needs to sign one of those because what that does is it means they have to keep your IP secret and it's owned by the company. And then a lot of mistakes founders make is they put the domain names and certain they trademark whatever in their own name. Not a big deal, but you need to transfer it over to the company. Investors, if you're a tech startup, you probably have nothing that's worth any value of anyone other than your tech. So it needs to be owned by the company itself, not by the founders. Yeah. And you don't want to get in a lawsuit with your developer. They need to sign one of these Inventions assignment agreements. So that's like step 1. Step 2 are trademarks. You want to protect your name. Generally, you want to come up with something unique for that category. You know, Apple's your classic example. Apples have nothing to do with computers. So, you know, you want to come up with something unique, because if you're in a conflict situation, it's harder to protect, and you might end up spending a lot of money fighting with somebody else who's kind of in your playground on that name. So come up with something unique. Do some good trademark searches ahead of time. Again, you know, it's good to have a lawyer do it. There's some more advanced searching techniques they can do, but at least go on the Patent Trademark Office website and do some searches, see what else is in your category. So those are kind of like the baseline things you start with. And then the third category is patents, and that's a lot more complex of a question. So if you're hardware, you have to have a patent, or again, investors aren't going to be interested. You know, you're not protecting your IP. Software is a lot more nuanced, super complicated. There's a Supreme Court case on whether certain types of software even can be patented in the first place. But if you are looking to do it, the keys are speed and secrecy. It has to be done once you publish it, whether it's on your website or you sell the technology. You only have a year to patent it. And forget that. U.S. has become what they call a first-to-file country. It used to be different. So whoever goes to that the trademark office first, the patent office, and gets that thing filed is going to get it first. So if you're looking for a hack, you know, for startups, what you could do is what they call a provisional patent. You can get one of those often for, you know, $5,000 or $7,000, whereas the full ones are a lot more. That gives you a year to get the full application in, and it also keeps it secret during that time, because maybe during that year you end up saying, oh, we don't really need a patent for this, but at least you've kind of held your ground.